quick. Um, and I'll do a quick little introduction. First of all, David, I'm grateful you're here. It's been I guess it's been a while since I've kind of spoken with you. Let me make sure that this is going. Okay. Well, there it goes. Okay, just making sure we were going. David, it's been a while since I've spoken with you. I think the last time I saw you live and in person was probably in St. Louis 3 years ago. I mean, it's been some
Well,
time, hasn't it?
well, I went to your event that you had, but
That's right.
that wasn't in St. Louis, though, I don't think, was it? Um, I mean, for Brian, for Brian, I saw you for, I think, the Sean McCloskey speaker training is where
Right.
I think it was. Then
That's the one I was thinking of.
then you invited me to your coaching event that you had later in the year, I think. And so there was probably one other time after that, I think, possibly.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, every time I've been around you, you talk to me about short sales, and the biggest question I guess I always had, and I think a lot of our folks who are going to be watching this probably on the replay or maybe joining us live on, yeah, we got some folks joining us live on YouTube. The biggest question I keep getting is, are short sales back? Are people doing short sales again? To which to which I reply, David Randolph says he's been doing them this whole time. And you've been doing them for a really long period of time. So I'm going to kind of give you the floor. I'm going to change this view over to speaker. I'm going to mute myself. If people come into our chat, I'm going to mute them. If you do have a question for David, put it in the chat, whether you're live with us on Zoom or whether you're actually in on our YouTube channel watching us. Go ahead and put it in the chat. And I'm just going to let you take it away, David. I know you got, I'm going to make sure that you can share your screen, but I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to mute my video and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch you share some pretty incredible and powerful stuff from what I've seen from afar. So, David, the floor is yours, my friend.
Great, fantastic. Hey, really thank you for allowing me to share my knowledge with your group of investors because you're right. A lot of people don't understand this and don't know it. Now, the thing, I laughed, chuckled when you said, "Are short sales back?" And I chuckled because they never left. Okay. They never left. And so, people don't understand that perspective to it with it because I've been doing it for 15 years. I never stopped. So for me, they never left. I think, for those experienced investors back in 2009 and 2010, and 11 and 12, people kind of, started. It was a great crisis in this country. And then, what happened was Bank of America came out with their 30-day hold. And that was where if you bought a short sale, you couldn't sell it for 30 days. And man, that wiped most everybody out. They didn't have the funding to really hold that property for 30 days before they resold it. So I think that was the beginning of when the people, the masses, the investors, and especially the real estate agents, kind of got out of it, then because of that. But since I was rehabbing houses, that didn't matter to me. Right. I'm going to hold it for at least 30, 60, 90 days anyway to get it fixed up and resell. So for me, that actually never affected me. Matter of fact, I created a separate business model because of that called transactional funding. And so I actually took, I had a small amount, maybe $100,000 in my IRA, and I started doing transactional funding for those smart agents who said, "Hey, I'll pay 3, 4, 5, 6 points on this loan to hold it for the 30 days and then resell it for a 50, $1,000 profit." And so I started that side business with it. But yeah, it's still there. What I like to do to stay organized is I've got a little presentation that I'll share to you as far as the slides go. Now, this is I did change my shirt. I did have a Hawaiian shirt type thing on, but because I just got off of a cruise ship, 8-day cruise for a group of retirement people. I don't know if you've ever heard of investor addicts or not, Brian. They're not a RIA group. They're not really anything except for a cruise people. So if you ever want to go on a cruise, I've been on Investor Addicts 3 years in a row, and that's all they do is just a cruise. There's no RIA group. There's no training. There's nothing. Just a bunch of networking, and stuff like that, which is really, valuable. But it's for people that had IRAs. Okay, so that was its original start was, people who were experienced and had done real estate in their IRAs. Now it's kind of, we had like over 90 people on the cruise this time. It's huge. And a lot of them, didn't have IRAs. So some new people were coming into it. My point is, I had a 30-minute time slot to present on short sales. So I thought I would just do the same presentation for your group. Okay. And then that'll give us a little bit of time, for questions. We can even take questions during it. If you see the question and want to pause me, we can take that question, during it, or we can hold them till the very end. So let me go ahead with that. And then, like I said, it doesn't bother me to interrupt the questions. I've been teaching short sales for a long time. And so, for me, it's not a big deal to get interrupted. So let me move this here, move that up there, swap that. Like having to chew gum here. There we go. Hopefully you can see my slide on there. So Brian, give me a thumbs up. Yep, perfect. Okay, great. And everything. So anyway, this is a presentation I do a lot to try to teach people about short sales. This is going to be a completely all teaching session. I don't have anything to sell you at the end of this at all. But I also know that you're going to get very upset with me because we only have 30 minutes in this. And so you're going to then go, oh my gosh, I want to know more. I want to know more. And so I'll be giving you some links and some other information for you guys, for Brian's people, people that come through this through YouTube, to get on my 2-hour short sale workshop. And I do this monthly. Okay. And so the next one actually happens to be March 11th, but I do it every single month, and it's just to introduce people to it. Okay. Be able to ask questions in a longer format. And then Brian, I'm even going to make your people have access to a free 3-day masterclass that they can attend, if they decide what they see in the 2-hour is something that resonates with them. They're willing to help families out of a crisis. They help, people get out of foreclosure, be able to stay in their house longer, be able to get the bank to pay them some money, and a bunch of other things I'm going to go through in these slides on here. So I go flying through these slides in 30 minutes. Just know that there's more access to additional information here because I will look like I'm blowing through things pretty quickly, but that's just because, we don't have 4 hours type thing. So with that said, with that little caveat, let me go ahead and see if I can advance these slides. So, hey, let's look at a little bit of the history of short sales and where we're coming from. Okay, so do you guys remember this COVID? Brian, did you guys have COVID down there in Alabama? Did that not? Okay, well, anyway, you kind of heard of that, and then we had that, what was it called? The CARES Act. Do you remember that? The CARES Act came out, trillions of dollars started floating all around the country. And then here's another one, the moratorium. Do you remember that back then? Okay, in 2020, the moratorium. It was kind of funny, all the renters were able to stop making their house payments during that time, right? And man, all of us landlords, I don't know, Brian, how many of your group are landlords, but we all were very upset with that. We marched on Washington, D.C. and said, hey, man, look, they got to pay their rent. We're not here, as a charitable organization. So we got all mad. Well, something people didn't know about was the banks and homeowners had an 18-month moratorium. Homeowners literally did not have to pay their mortgage payment for 18 months. Okay. And so, that now nobody marched on Washington, D.C. for the banks, but they kind of got the shaft. Okay. Not that I care, but they kind of got the shaft a bit. And so there was this moratorium, and it did end back in July of 21. So 18 months and no payments. And of course, right away, foreclosures increased 27%. Now, we're going from like a near zero number, so that's not really that impressive. Okay. And so then, basically foreclosures have been increasing about, almost every every single month, for the past 4 or 5 years. And ironically, Brian, just as a side tidbit here, we actually are not even back up to the pre-pandemic foreclosure rate in this country. We're still at about 82% of it, which is kind of very interesting perspective, on that there was so much money put out there, in there, and the banks are not foreclosing on homeowners. Okay, and so that basically, was causing, the government to step in and to kind of regulate allowing the banks to foreclose or not foreclose. But anyway, historically, that's kind of where we came from here. Where we had, people, then kind of out of the moratorium. And so let's look at some other things. There's 2.2 million delinquent homeowners. Okay, now these are official numbers. Okay, a year ago it was 1.65 million delinquent homeowners. So it's actually increasing. That's a bad thing. Okay, why would it be increasing? That's not good. But there's 2.2 million people that are not making their payment on here. And so now, I don't know if you saw it, Brian, but we had a presidential election recently. Okay, somebody else is now in office. And so now whenever that happens, then all the news and all the media changes and the real numbers come out. And so this last week or 2 weeks ago, Newsweek revealed that it's actually 6 million delinquent homeowners. See, they were kind of trying to pad those numbers and make it not sound like it was so bad, right? And now the new president comes in, they release the actual numbers. So it's actually 6 million delinquent homeowners in this country. And that's really a huge number on there. Now you can say, hey, so what? Okay, just let them, refinance their loan or just do something else, with the house. Well, one of the perspectives we look at here as an investor in short sales is that you got long-term job losses. You can't refinance your home if you don't have a job. Okay, right? And of course, interest rates have basically doubled, right? Since, 2022, we're at 3.5% interest rates, some hitting 2%. Now we're sitting at 6. So you can't refinance your house, and if you don't have a job, you can't qualify for a modification. So that's kind of some numbers there to look at with that. Now, this is where I have fun. So I got to do a little caveat here. What I'm about to tell your people is going to be very upsetting to them. Okay. So first of all, any real estate agents on this call or on this video watching it later, I'm not going to apologize, but I will be upsetting you. Okay. Because I'm teaching people to be real estate investors to do a short sale for themselves. So in other words, a short sale, I don't do short sales on the MLS. They're not listed with an agent. So I'm a real estate investor that what happens is I work directly with the homeowner, and I'm the buyer and the negotiator with the bank. So I'm actually the buyer and the negotiator. This is not a flat fee. We're not giving the short sale to a company for a flat fee to do it. And we're certainly not finding the short sale listed on the MLS as a short sale, because at that point, the real estate agent has pretty much screwed it up. Okay, to be honest with you, they pretty much messed it up because they went out there and they listed it for the wrong price. So anyway, with that little caveat, I'll be saying a lot of things that'll be contrary to what most people understand or think about. So I want you to have an open mind on here and kind of just listen to my 15 years of experience. So I'm going to start out right here with this simple one. What's your definition of a short sale? So one sentence answer. We asked 10 real estate investors, what's your definition of a short sale? And we probably don't have time to wait for answers. If you want to throw it in the chat box or you want to put it on YouTube there, go ahead and throw it in. But the one sentence answer, on a short sale, how do you define that? And most people here would say it's when the homeowner cannot sell the house for what is owed on it. They owe too much, right? That's kind of the generic short definition. Well, nah, dead wrong. That is not what a short sale is. Okay, so this is where we're going to deviate from traditional thinking and try to get your mind to move around and change on it, because I'm now going to give you my definition. And that's the true definition of a short sale. You miss one house payment. Okay, now why is that? Well, it's because I can't do a short sale on a house if they are making their payments. They have to miss one payment for me to do the short sale. Now, there's a few exceptions where, okay, they're going to move the core corporations moving. There's a few little exceptions like that, but in general, the bank's not going to do a short sale unless they've missed one payment. So for me, and what I teach and what I do for 15 years is I simply need them to miss a house payment, and then I can do a short sale. Now you're going to say, hey, Dave, what about equity and what about home prices across the country? I'll tell you what, I'm a hard money lender. And everybody comes to me for funding. Everybody says, hey, Dave, my market's so hot. My market's so hot. And I just kind of yawn now because everybody's market's hot across the country. So, and so, you say, well, that's not really, the definition, but I'm going to back it up with data because I'm an engineer. Okay. My background's engineering. So I'm kind of a data junkie nerd. So I'm going to back that up with some data. So let's take Black Knight. That is a company that was bought out by ICE. They're a data statistical company on mortgages. And they did this 30-year study all across the country. For the past 30 years, they took all the homeowners that had a foreclosure date all across the country and took those people that 40% equity, 40% equity. They could snap their fingers and sell that house on the MLS. Well, what happened, Brian, is 30%, 1/3 of those people went to foreclosure anyway. Okay. They lost their home anyway. So I don't know if anybody here knows Pete Fortunato, but he has this little phrase or this little saying that when he goes into a house to buy a house from a homeowner, we're not talking about what do they want for the house. He asks them, why would you sell such a nice house as this? Why would you sell such a nice house like this one? Why are you selling? That's what he does. He's trying to help families out. It's not about the home and it's not about the value of the property. It's about their life situation. And in this particular case, 1/3 of these people lost their homes anyway. You weren't there, Brian. I wasn't there for those people. The rest of our group wasn't there to help those people out. You could have stepped in and done a short sale. That's your short sale. That's the definition of you miss one house payment. That is the people that I want everyone to target and to help those people. Okay. Now, would you like to know the exact schedule of all the homeowners and when they're going to be foreclosed on? Would you like to know that schedule? Okay. And stuff. Well, we don't have time to go through it right now or anything like that. But basically, that was a 212-page document that was put out by the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Okay, and they've been the governing body back in 2020 for short sales, foreclosure processes, and so all the banks, okay, even conventional lenders, had to follow their regulations. And so it's actually typed up in those 212 pages on it and stuff. And so they were the ones controlling the foreclosures over the past, 5 years. Now, here's a real interesting thing. Brian, your timing is so perfect for your group, for your RIA group, for your people, because of this. You remember that new president we have? Okay. Well, guess what he did a couple of weeks ago? He shut it down. The CFPB is shut down. They're no longer operating. So now the banks are going to be able to absolutely start foreclosing at will. Okay, at will. I don't know. There's probably some war movies there or something like that. The shoot at will or fire at will or whatever. You see some movies. And so the banks are going to be able to foreclose at will, because they shut down the CFPB. There is no governing body to keep them from, stopping the banks. Okay, so they don't have to follow these regulations on it and stuff. Now, is it going to happen right away? Well, probably not. And I've got some inside information, Brian, with some of the local banks. And what they've told me in the past is, yeah, those regulations are there, and we've got 6 million people that we'd like to foreclose on. And we're supposed to follow these due diligence and all this other process and stuff like that. But they also had another issue with the law firm. So 2 banks told me that they have these cases they want to give to the law firm, but they don't have the attorneys to foreclose. So even in a non-judicial state, they still use attorneys to foreclose on it. And the law firms, so look, back in 2020, June of 2020 to be exact, they laid off all the attorneys. The foreclosing law firms laid them all off. Look, they're cheap. And I can say that because my son's an attorney. Okay, but basically all the law firms are cheap, and they laid everybody off because there were no foreclosures for 18 months. And so they don't have, or they didn't have the staff to do massive foreclosure foreclosures across this country. Two individual banks told me that specifically with it. Now, Brian, I'm making a prediction. I don't usually do that. So first of all, I was one who said that there was not going to be a tsunami, that there's no tidal wave coming. Okay, I've said that for years now, and I was right. There wasn't. Now I'm changing my tune a little bit because I see the possibility of what could be happening here. So let's picture this. Okay, in the past, we had now what is revealed to be 6 million delinquent loans, but we didn't really have paperwork process that was easy for the banks to do. They had to follow a lot of notices and a lot of disclosures to the homeowner before they could actually reach that point of taking them to foreclosure with it. And the law firms couldn't handle massive files coming in. Now let's picture this. CFB shut down, the bank can fire at will, okay, but they now need the attorney. So if you're a company, a law firm, and you are a bank, and the bank goes to the law firm and says, hey, man, we can fire at will here. Okay, would you staff up, train and hire attorneys so we can start funneling these things over to you? So I'm not saying it's a prediction, but I'm saying that I think we're going to see a huge increase in foreclosures coming up. And I'm figuring about July of 2025. And the reason I say July 2025 is that's the 5-year mark, coming up on here from when we've had, this whole crisis and this whole moratorium and this whole system. And I think they're going to say, hey, look, we've given people 5 years to try and get things worked out and with their mortgages and their payments, and it's not working. And so now we have to take these houses back. I think they'll make up some news release story or whatever, but I'm predicting or estimating July of 2025, you're going to really see that ramp up with it. So this is kind of new, hot off the press information. Now let's talk about you, all your listeners on here, real estate investors. Okay, what do you struggle with? What is your problem with real estate right now? Why aren't you buying houses like crazy and making tons of money? What is the number one thing that you're struggling with? Now, Brian, as you know, and I'm sure you teach everyone in your group, the answer is never to say they don't have money. There's always money out there, right, to fund your deal. You have a good deal, Brian can find you someone to fund it. Okay, other real estate investors have connections with lenders, bank lenders, hard money lenders. There's different kinds of lenders. So there's no excuse that you can't find good deals because you don't have money. Okay, but what is the real reason why and what you struggle with? Well, most people say it's because they can't find houses at a low price. With it. In other words, the homeowner wants too much money for the house. Or here's the bigger one, wholesalers. Wholesalers want too much money. That's the number one problem with people today, is that you've got so many wholesalers out there, and there's different categories, and a lot of them don't know what they're doing. They didn't get proper training to be a wholesaler, and they're offering way too much to the homeowner for the house, expecting you to pay a lot of money for it. And so that's the biggest thing that people are struggling with, is wholesalers being able to find good deals and everything. And so basically here, people always like these case examples and stuff like that. So I'm going to throw a case example in here with it. And this is, here's his name, there's the address. I'm all about, complete disclosure. You can look all this stuff up on public records, okay? And so this is a guy in Chattanooga, Tennessee, okay? Hickson, Texas is Chattanooga. And he just recently did a short sale, okay, where he bought it for 174 and sold it for 315,000. And all he did was 15,000 in paint. He painted the inside and he painted the outside. And so he had a gross profit. And I say gross because I'm trying to be, and I believe that I'm, FTC compliant when I use the word gross profit. That means that, hey, he may have, had those numbers, but he's got to pay for paper and ink pens and computers and blah, blah, blah stuff. But basically that's what he bought it for. That's what he sold it for. And that's the rehab that he did on it. And so that was just a recent, short sale, here, where, he didn't have to struggle with buying from wholesalers anymore. In other words, he stopped going to the wholesaler for his source of houses, and he went straight to the short sale method of buying them directly with negotiations with the bank through the homeowner's permission. So you are working through the homeowner with their permission. Now, a little sidebar here, if you see that 9K in commission, his wife is a real estate agent, and so she made 9K commission on the buy and 9K commission on the lot on the south side. So in addition to what John got, his wife got 18,000. And so, that's good. A very good thing. I always say a happy wife is a happy life. So, she was very happy. Now, I'm not too sure what happened when she saw the HUD and saw his number. Okay. But, that is his numbers. I can't really change them. And stuff. And here's another example. People love little examples and stuff like that. And this is a house in New Jersey. This is a guy, Willie Delenko. There's this thing. Go on social media. Connect with him on social media. He's pretty cool on social media and stuff like that with it. And he bought one for 364 and sold it for 640. He wholesaled it for 276,000 gross profit. So if I haven't got your people's attention by now, you might as well turn off the Zoom session, because everything I'm going to be talking about is how do you do this, okay, and stuff like that. Now, I talk about how you do short sales and how that's done. We need to start out with some, legal stuff, and I need to probably get a better legal disclaimer type thing. But I do want to tell everybody on here, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a regular investor. I'm not even an actor. Okay. None of this presentation, written or anything I say, is meant to be any kind of financial advice for you or tax advice or legal advice. This is just my experience over the past 14, 15 years, my interpretation of my experience in short sales. That's what I'm going to be sharing with your people, Brian. Okay. Now, who am I though? Okay. Probably, I know you know me, Brian, but other people don't. So who am I? Well, I'm someone who has learned from the best, both local and national experts. I really like to learn from the best out there. I do a lot of research, okay? Make a lot of money. I have a lot of processes and procedures. My engineering background kicks in, and I like to have, systems in place. I am a full-time entrepreneur. I got multiple business income streams. In other words, I don't have a day job, okay? So I've got multiple income streams. Some of them are an outgo stream, okay? I have a wife, and so sometimes that's an outgo stream, but I can say that because she's not in the room here, but so multiple income streams with it. My background is engineering and computer science. I did retire from my corporate job back in 2006 at the age of 42. So I did leave my corporate job to homeschool my kids. And that was really great. My wife was already doing that. And I kind of helped through the high school years. And it was kind of a real problem. In 2010, they went to college from high school. So now what do I do? Okay, I'm retired, and they graduated and went off to college. So that is in 2010 when my wife and I became full-time real estate investors after homeschooling. Now, I'm just a small guy. Now, I'm not some big syndication. I don't have 18 designations after my name. I'm not part of, Blue Rock or any of those other companies or whatever they are. I'm just a regular guy that rehabs houses, like 5 to 10 houses a year. But one of my claims to fame is all my renovated houses, that I put up on the MLS, 260,000 and less, they have sold in 7 days or less at list price or higher for 15 years. My houses are drop dead gorgeous, Brian. Now, it's not really that impressive because I'm making $50,000 to $150,000 gross profit on just $250,000 houses in St. Louis. So it's really simple to sell them quickly, right? Because I'm making so much money. I put them up at a fair price. Okay. And so that's a little background of who I am, where I came from. I'm also a hard money lender too. So my heart is to help new rehabbers get started. So I've got over $3 million in my IRAs, in my retirement accounts that I lend out to other rehabbers. Okay. And so my heart is to help new people get started. Okay. So I give you the money to fix it up, the money to buy the house, the money to fix the house, the money for the points, and the money for the monthly interest payments. Brian, you need $0. You paid all back on the HUD statement. And that's my heart, to help new people. And regardless of whether you like short sales or ever want to do short sales, I'm always there to be your lender. So if you text LEND, LEND, to my phone number at 636-685-2990, you get my lending document. It goes on for 2 pages. I give you contractors, material supplier. It just goes on and on. My heart is to help new people get started. I don't want them to be disenfranchised from this system, right? Okay, so many lenders have large down payments and 25% down. And so they'll never get started in this real estate field. And as we know, this is one of the greatest areas for people to achieve financial freedom. And so since it's my money, it's my heart, and this is the way that I lend. I also, about 5 years ago, some really big names out there in the industry, okay, that know me said, you need to start teaching other people how to do short sales. So about, 5 or 6 years ago, I started doing that. I have developed an online education portal, a basic workshop. Brian, that over 400 investors have taken this workshop. And here's what I'm very proud of, Brian, and you'll appreciate this because you're in the education space. You're helping other investors learn and to be able to, be successful in real estate. And education is a way to do that quickly. I've only had 6 people ask for their money back. 6 out of 400. That's unheard of, in the education space. And so I'm very proud of that. But I did develop that workshop, for our people. I am the founder of Short Sale Profits with a PH. And by the way, Brian, I did clear that with my church. Okay, because I didn't want to get, heresy or stoned or something. So my church said, as long as I use an S on it, it's okay. And that's a registered trademark. I am the founder of The David Randolph. And so what happened there was davidrandolph.com was taken. And I was heartbroken for a website. And so people said, wait, aren't you the David Randolph? I'm like, yeah, go daddy, give me the davidrandolph.com. And then my IP attorney said, hey, I need a new pair of shoes. Let's file for a registration trademark for that too. And so I've got both trademarks for Short Sale Profits and the David Randolph. Now, as we fly through this stuff, okay, you are going to need to develop a system over time. If you start doing short sales, you have to have a system. I'm about processes and systems. And Brian, as you know, that applies to everything in real estate. You got to document what you do and improve it every time you do a deal. Learn from it. And so when you do this stuff, start documenting what you do and how you do it, and then create a system. And so oh, here's a good one here. So, this is Carl here. He is someone who did a short sale. We talked about a couple other people here with it, and he was the one that was started doing short sales because he was fed up with the wholesalers. And his very first house, he bought it for 120, and sold it for 220. Didn't do any work to it. And it was kind of funny. I said, Carl, but you're a rehabber. Why did you do that? And he said, look, I was so fed up with wholesalers, that I'd buy a house, I'd work on the rehab and make a lousy 15 grand, look on public records, and I'd see that they had made 40 grand on it, just wholesaling it. So he bought it for 120, his very first short sale, and sold it for 220, and then emailed it to all of his wholesaling buddies and said, up yours. See, I don't need you anymore. I can do short sales and get houses much better than what you're doing here. But this is a third house, and I'm going to play a little video thing because I want you to listen. I'm going to get a drink of water too, and then I want you to listen to his words because it doesn't match what's on the computer screen. So what you see on the screen is the real life numbers, and then listen to the day he bought the house in the title company, what he thought the numbers were. So I want you to listen to his words carefully. Obviously, the purchase price 82.5 stayed the same because we knew that, but listen to the rest of this and see what it actually turned out to be.
Hey, David, I'm not getting volume to come through on this.
Oh,
I can't hear him.
okay. Let me stop the share and try to reshare. I probably may have missed sharing my sound. So I apologize. Let me try that again. So click that, share sound, share that, and try to redo that. And we'll try that over. Sorry about that. There's always that little extra button there. Tell you about what some of the Hello, this is David Randolph, and I'm here with Carl, and we're at the title company. We're kind of pretty excited today. Carl just closed on the purchase of his third short sale. So I'm going to let Carl just kind of tell you about what some of the numbers are and how that is for him today.
Thanks, David. So we're at Continental Title here in St. Louis, Missouri. We just closed on a house for 82.5. The ARV on this house is near 250. We're expecting to put about 60,000 into it. Through David's one-on-one coaching program, I was able to work with the bank and secure a short sale. The bank was looking for significantly more than 82.5. We were able to get the homeowner out of the house as they wanted to do, and it was basically all due to David's one-on-one coaching, working me through all the way through all the processes of making this happen. Can't say much more about David's course except for it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's an exciting day. Thank you very much. So anyway, I show this because I've done this for 15 years. These numbers are meaningless to me. Okay, but other people can do it and too, and that's why I play these for encouragement for other people. But did you hear how he thought you would sell it for 250? That's because that's what's called a split level home. And no split level in St. Charles County, Missouri had ever sold over 250,000. So he listed it for that. We ended up selling for 302. Quite amazing. His rehab, as we all know, they always end up higher. So he's thinking 60, 65. It cost him 75. That part's not unusual. But that's Carl just on his third one. That's how desperate the banks are. Okay. So let's move on here. Now let's get into the meat here. Okay. So hopefully I got your attention. Hopefully you're excited. You want to learn about how to do this a little bit, okay? And stuff. And so, banks are very desperate right now. They're dumping houses like crazy with it. And, what you see on the exit strategy side is irrelevant to the purchase side because the banks have completely different reasons for doing a short sale. It has to do with fiat currency, a lot of other factors I don't have time to go through. And I told you about that free 2-hour workshop that I do every single month that your group will be able to get on. I can go in 2 hours of detail of why does the bank accept those kind of prices? What is that factor that is affecting them? As we know, it's always about the seller. But let's get down into, the actual mechanics of a short sale. Okay, so you understand what the process is. So that was great. I said the definition is you miss one house payment, but in reality, let's look at that more closely, what that means. A lot of people don't understand that it's all the total loans, Brian. It's not the mortgage on the house, it's the total debt owed. So here's an example, an extreme example I picked to emphasize, what I'm trying to teach here. The lender, the home mortgage lender, could be owed $10 and it's still a short sale. Right? What? They're owed $10 and it's still a short sale. And the reason is because the homeowner has a second lien position. They've got, let's say, $100,000 federal tax lien. They've got credit card judgments. It's the total amount of money owed that house would have to pay off in a sale. And so that's why a lot of people are in trouble, with it because of all the other debt. So this is your more granular definition of what is it, okay? Now, I don't want to go too far here because, we have on YouTube people all across the United States potentially listening to this. And so, you may be in a non-judicial state or you may live in a judicial state, and it's irrelevant, Brian. The short sale process is identical, okay? The process of negotiating with a bank is identical. Okay, I don't want to have to repeat that, but I will. It's the same paperwork, the same process all across the country. The only thing that changes is the amount of time you have to reach the homeowner. In a judicial state like Illinois and Florida, the homeowner can really put this off, the foreclosure off for months and years. In a non-judicial state like Texas and, Georgia and other, states like Missouri, which is where I'm from, it's 21 days. Okay. And so it's non-judicial. And that just means my letters go much quicker every 3 days. And in Florida, Illinois, you're going to maybe send them every 3 weeks. So before we go too far, no matter what state you're in, what I'm about to teach you applies in all cases. Okay. Now, what is it? Okay, looking further at this, what's going to happen is that the lender, the bank, okay, is going to be dealing with the listing agent or the listings agent's short sale processor. That's you. You're in effect a short sale processor. Okay, that's what your function is, okay, with it. And so the banks are used to this. A lot of listing agents don't want to process a short sale. They don't want to do the paperwork. And so the banks are very used to working with a short sale processor on it. Now, the bank is going to actually be negotiating the net to the bank. So in other words, a bank wants to know what the house is worth. It's irrelevant look, Brian, when I bought that house for $29,600, The loan was $204,000, 204, bought it for 29.6. It's irrelevant how much the loan is, okay, with it. And so anyway, they're going to be looking at the net to the bank, though. It's not the sales price, but rather what does the bank end up as a net to them? And that's what's kind of important. Another thing too here is important for all parties involved to be unrelated on paper. No time to go into that, Brian. No time at all. We're kind of running over on time now as it is with it. And so that free 2-hour workshop, I go into a lot more detail on that. But, you want to have the parties unrelated on paper. And there's an actual definition of what that means. And I'll explain that, and if you want to throw it in the chat box and we have time, certainly I can answer the question with it. But basically, the bank's going to be doing a BPO, broker price opinion, okay, to determine the value. I mean, that's crazy, Brian. This is an Achilles heel, okay, type thing, right? Achilles heel to their whole process is they send out some real estate agent paid $50 to determine the value of the home. Now, FHA short sale is a homeowner with an FHA loan. FHA is smart and they require a full appraisal. So you're not going to make as much money on an FHA short sale, okay, because they do a full appraisal, okay, with it. And now this whole process I'm about to go through results in an approval letter from the bank that gives you about 30 days to close. So look, you come to a title company, you have water bottles, you have a table, you have a little symbol that you can take pictures of. They hold up, sold my home, whatever, it's a normal process. It's just that the bank is sending an approval letter with multiple pages and certain conditions, on it. And it can take 3 to 9 months, process to get to that point, to get that approval letter with it and stuff. And everything. So now, why do them? We talked about what is it, overview real quick, now let's go talk about why do we do them. So the homeowner, okay, is going to be foreclosed on if the bank's not paid in full. The bank just doesn't go ollie in free. You can just pay me what you want and move on with life. No, they've got a process, okay, paperwork process, where they're going to foreclose on them, okay, and then if they're not getting paid in full. So that's where you go into the short sale system that they've instituted. This comes from the banks. You're following government regulations, okay? And then why does the seller want to do this? Well, look, in a lot of states, most states, if they have a deficiency on the property, they can come get that from you, okay? In Missouri, they've got 7 years to come get them deficiency. And the deficiency is the difference between what the loan was, all the penalties, all the interest payments and everything, minus what the bank eventually sells a house for at some point in time. That's a deficiency and they can come get that from you. Versus instead, I can get the bank to pay the seller, money at closing on the HUD statement from the bank. And the other reason they do them is they're going to have a 300-point hit on their credit for 7 years, whereas a short sale is 50 points, for 1 year. Why does the investor do them? Massive profits, massive. So this is a play off of real estate, location, location, location. So why do we do them as investors? Massive profits, massive profits, massive profits. Here's a case example of one of mine that I can go through because it's mine and the others are just testimonials from other students. But this one, is quote mine, if you want to call it that. Okay, so there's the address. You can go look all this stuff up on public records. This was a home that was a short sale that was wholesaled. In other words, there was no real work done to it, but it was sold to the public. Sold to a retail buyer that just moved in, and it was sold for $370,000. Now, what would you have paid for that house? Okay, now it's got to be less than 370, right? And I don't have time to wait for any answers. You can throw it in the chat box if you want to. Or on wherever media you're following us on right now, throw it in where you can. But basically, that's what was paid for the house. So there was $100,200 gross profit made on that property. Now you say, Dave, look, that's not very impressive. Out of $370,000 house, you only made $100,000 gross profit. Okay, and stuff. Now I'm going to have to tell you though, Brian, and I'm kind of not real good with people sometimes. I scare people off, but if you don't want to wake up tomorrow morning with a wire in your checking account for $100,000 bill. If you don't want that, then you should get off the Zoom session right now. Brian and I don't have anything else for you, buddy. If you don't want to wake up with one in your checking account, then I'm not going to be able to do much more for you. But I do want to surprise you with something here. This isn't why I showed it. This is why I showed it. Brian, you can do short sales in your retirement accounts. That was done in a Roth IRA. So once again, location, location, location. With Roth, as you know, Brian, they're tax-free forever, forever, forever. So you can do them in there. So we had on this house, we had a $404,000 first position credit union and a $40,000 second position from a second credit union. I don't have time to go through the specifics of how this was negotiated on here. I do that in the 2-hour workshop. I talk about who the seller was, talk about how you handle credit unions, and we really don't have time to do that here. Matter of fact, actually, here's the first thing that you can get to and stuff. So if you scan that QR code, I'll give you a 2-hour video, recorded video, 20 case studies. Okay, 20 case studies and a PDF of the slides that you can watch at your leisure, because I know you're not going to get everything you want on this, short presentation with it. So you can scan that. And by the way, if they text Trippe, Trippe, to my phone number, 636-685-2990, then we can also text you that information, or if you got a phone and you can scan that QR code, you can do that either way, or text TRIPPE to my phone number, and you can get this free training. Now, real quickly, how long does it take to do a short sale? So here's one that I did all on Zoom. I was doing it for my coaching students. I wanted an entire short sale from beginning to end, all on Zoom for training purposes. So I did it very quickly. I did the whole thing in 2 months, and it was only 22 hours, okay? And so that's very quick. It normally takes much longer. And the reason is I want it to take as long as possible. The longer it takes, Brian, the lower the price I negotiate with a bank, okay? But in this case, I wasn't able to do that because I needed videos. So I paid $58,000 for the house. I could have got it for $42,000. I know I could have done that, but it would have taken 2 more weeks of calendar time, and it would have taken about another hour of work to do that. But I needed my Zoom videos and stuff. Now, let me say this, Brian, this is a little bit more impressive here. $118,000 gross profit on a $220,000 house. Hopefully now that's a little bit more impressive, than the other one with it and stuff like that. So, you can make huge profits, and my students are doing it all across the country. How are we going to get them? Let's move on here quickly to how to get them, okay? Marketing. So I teach something really super simple, okay? Once again, this is in here as a reminder, okay? Take notes, write this down. Heck, you can get these slides. If you text in Trippe to my number, I'll send you these slides too, because we're not going to be able to probably go very slow on it, because I always take too much time with it. So keep in mind, you have to have a system in place. Okay, so let's look at the 5 steps. Okay, so we're coming from here about marketing. Okay, it's a huge part. Okay, so let's take a look at the 5 steps. And so this is where I get everyone mad, because Brian, I'm only going to show one slide on each of these 5 steps because we're out of time. Okay, already. And so that's why, I've got the free 2-hour workshop they can sign up for in the 3-day masterclass. But these are the 5 major steps that you do, how to find a seller. So the easiest way to do that is the county legal newspaper. Look for the online access. So Brian, we don't buy the list from list providers. Okay, so any list providers on here, you're not happy with me because I can't promote, your list business, because I teach my investors to go straight to the county legal newspaper and get it before you, to get it where you are supposed to get it from anyway. So that's how I teach that. And in that video that I would send you, those 20 case studies, Brian, it'll show you the website and how to do it. Don't have time to do it here. Okay, moving on. What do you mail to the seller? So Brian, direct mail is as old as death and taxes, right? We don't need SEO. We don't need bandit signs. We don't need all that fancy stuff. Can you do it? Certainly. But I teach people to use direct mail. Okay, what do you mail to the seller to get them to call you? Okay, so direct mail marketing. Okay, that's what I believe in. You need multiple letters, and you need to combine it with voice phone calls and with texting. Now, We won't go into the TCPA law here. I will leave that for the 2-hour workshop. We don't have time, but you want to have multiple letters. You want to reach out to people telling them about their options, okay? Now, what do you say to the seller? So you made them a letter. What do you say to them when they call you? They're going to call you, and you want them to be to authorize you. So what are you going to say to them when they call? Okay, so some of the things here just quickly is let them know they're not going to get as much net out of the sales price as what they might think. In other words, we all know that if you list your home, you're only going to get like 90% of what you listed for because of commissions and title company fees and inspection fees and a lot of other stuff like that. Also, you want to let the homeowner know that you intend to make a profit. Okay, don't come across as you're some kind of consultant who's being paid to do a modification. You're not licensed to do that. Tell them you're buying the house to make a profit. And so now you've done full disclosure with the seller. Now, with all the things we could go through and we do in the 2-hour workshop, here's the end thing for those who need to know the real answer. You can lose all the arguments with the seller about everything about the value of the home and everything, but none of it matters if they can't stop the foreclosure date, and that's what you do. That's how you get them every time, Brian. Hey, great, I agree with everything you said, but does you no good because next Tuesday you're losing the home to the bank. I can help you stop the XX foreclosure date. Please authorize me to talk to the bank. Boom, you get them every time. Quick example here. I'm only showing this because this is an example of a wholesale, deal with a split level, and so another split level, and this is Dan and Carrie. They bought it for 68, sold it for 168. The interesting part thing is not that they made a gross profit of 100K, but is that the rehabber that bought it, for 168, he put about 100 in it. He put quite a bit in, had it, for 268. He sold it for 375, Brian. So this split level that I showed you with Carl, who sold it, listed for 250, sold for 302. Then this split level comes along a little bit later, and it goes for 375. Quite amazing. So the exit strategy is very helpful for us. Now, it's an interesting thing. I don't know if you have these in Alabama, Brian, but a hedge fund came in 6 months later and paid the homeowner $410,000 for the house. You go look this address up on public records, you're going to see an LLC that bought this house for $410,000 from a traditional civilian who bought it for 375 and lived in it. And so I don't know if you have those kinds of hedge funds in your area anymore or not. Anyway, partial summary, look, is that can help families out of a crisis. In my county, there's 300 a month. Next month, there's another 300. In St. Louis area, my actual county where I live is 40. You don't need a lot. This is not $10,000 a month mass marketing systems, and for that 2-hour workshop, here's that QR code, once again, or if you text Trippe to 636-685-2990, you can get a 2-hour workshop and the 20 case studies. And then you can be on that. The next one happens to be March 11th, but I do it every month, for those that miss it. I'm doing this, every single month in your group. There's no charge for this, Brian. I want to make it super clear to people. There's absolutely no charge for this with it. And I'll just even be more open with you, Brian. I'm not selling anything in the 2-hour workshop either. So sometimes you see people come to free things and they want to sell them something at the end. I'm not doing that in this 2-hour workshop. Type thing. Now, if someone contacts me offline and says, hey, David, I want to buy something that you have, that's a completely different story. But in this 2-hour workshop, I am not selling anything. I'm trying to introduce real estate investors to what a short sale is, especially the new people. Real quickly, what do you say to the bank? To stop the foreclosure. So you're going to send in the authorization form to an 800 number. It's going to take a couple of days for them to actually review it. You're going to give the bank these bank documents, realtor documents, and negotiation documents. No time to go through them. I'll cover that in the 2-hour workshop. Key thing, here's where they've made the mistake for 15 years. Don't ever get on the phone with a bank and talk to them for more than 5 minutes if you don't get what you want. If you don't get what you want to talk to their supervisor. That's why so many people got burned out on it. And expedite. Say it. Just be on the phone with the bank and go, expedite. and you're going to hear this clicking on the keyboard. Expedite. They start typing something on the keyboard. It means something in their system, and that's a little trick I just gave everybody. Now, how do you negotiate with the bank and maximize your profit? Okay. Here's a big one. You got to be at the house with the appraiser, Brian. It's actually in the Fannie Mae guidelines that you have to be at the house. Some people are like, well, you can't be at the house. You're influencing them. That's illegal. No, it's actually not illegal, but it's actually against regulations for you not to be there. You are supposed to be at the house with the appraiser, okay? And there's reasons for it. I don't have time to go into it. You want to give the appraiser, him or her, a package. And then, we talk about repair estimate. Do not give them a rehab estimate. That's a huge mistake. It's repairs. If I tell my people that are in my private Facebook group, there's like 150 of us in there behind a firewall. I say, if I ever see you give the bank a price for granite countertops, I'm kicking you out of the group. It's a repair estimate, not a rehab scope. Okay. So anyway, in summary, wrap this thing up real quickly here. Remember, a foreclosure is a failed short sale. Brian, we should not have any foreclosures out there anywhere, because that means somebody didn't step in and do a short sale with them. There's my contact information. Take a picture of that. There's information for Lynn. So just go ahead and reach out to me there. So Brian, I'd like to open it up to any questions. I know we have gone almost a full hour here. Apologize. It's is kind of why I said up front that I wouldn't be able to cover stuff very well. So they've got access to, that workshop and a free 3-day masterclass. Any questions, Brian? Do you have any questions? Or
I got questions. I definitely have questions. So can we take the, well, I guess we can leave the slide up there. All right, I got questions, David. I'm a question guy. So just for the record, I've never successfully done a short sale, okay? I attempted a few times, many years back. I attempted a few times, and where I always got stuck is, you've kind of addressed this. Where I always got stuck was with the realtor. Okay, because is it true that it has to be listed?
No, it's absolutely not true, and you're doing it backwards. Okay, and so
hold on. Let me clarify the question. I was instructed, again, attempted maybe a half dozen times, and I was always instructed by the banks or the lender there has to be a BPO, and it has to get listed for so many days. And this is many years ago, but that's not true. You're saying
no, it's the same today. But when was the statement that you made, I had trouble with the realtor. Your mistake was the realtor is not trouble because you brought them in. They're on your team. The contractor for your repair estimates is on your team. The realtor is on your team. You're doing all the work. The real estate agent is literally doing nothing but putting it on the MLS. You're filling out all the paperwork. You get the blank documents from the MLS, you go to the homeowner's house, you fill them all out, you get the buyer's signature, you type everything up, you send them to the real estate agent to put in their file. They do nothing. Zippo. And so that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't have trouble with the real estate agent because they should not have an opinion. They should not have been causing you trouble. That's what I'm saying, is that you're doing that backwards. You reach out and bring in the real estate agent on your team, not you going to where you end up working with one that is causing you trouble. Okay. On it.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. And then you're sitting here talking, talking to a bank. When I was attempting this, again, I'll just say I have basically zero experience. This is just kind of the stuff that came up for me when I was trying to do this. A lot of times when it's already in foreclosure, I'm instructed, the bank won't talk to me because at that point it's now with an attorney. Any guidance there?
Oh yeah. Look, remember we mail out those letters, we do the phone call, we're getting the seller to sign an authorization form for you to talk to the bank. The bank has no choice but to talk to you.
Even if it's already in foreclosure and they have it with an attorney.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're still authorized. Okay.
Right. But I guess I was instructed by the bank that they're not going to talk to me, that you need to talk to the attorney because they put
Yes, right. Okay, so yes, I understand what you're saying now. That is a ploy by the banks to put you off. Here's what you say to the bank when they say that to you. You say this to them. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Look, I can't call the attorney because they work for you and they're being paid by you. I like good example, Brian, is you'll hear the bank say, "Well, you want to stop the foreclosure, call the attorney." Right? That's what you heard. You want to stop the foreclosure, call the attorney, and the bank will give you the phone number. It's a ruse. It's a lie. It's a scam, whatever. And you say this back to the bank. You say to them, no, 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 I can't do that because the attorney works for you. The attorney will not stop the foreclosure because of me telling him to stop it. The bank is paying the agent. The bank has to give instructions to the attorney to stop it. It comes from you, bank, and I'm here to convince you to stop the thing and everything. So that's where you kind of had your problems on and stuff
No,
like that
David,
on it.
why would the bank negotiate with me versus it letting it go to auction and letting and presumably getting more for the property, more for the house? Because I
Right.
understand that the bank doesn't want the property. The bank is not in the real estate business. Banks
Yeah.
are in the lending business, so they don't want the property. I get that, but they would presumably get more at auction, would they not? Why would they even go through a short sale negotiation with me when it's
These,
already at that process?
these are great questions, Brian. I love it, man. This is so cool. Here's why. The banking system, very well regulated. They have million-dollar policies and procedures. And Brian, they believe they have policies that state that a short sale will always give them more money than a foreclosure will. Always, okay? That's why they are instructed and almost required to stop and pause to do the short sale because in their procedures, it says they will get more money than the expense of going through the foreclosure and the attorneys and
Maybe we
taking it
lost
back.
David. I hope
And
we didn't lose him.
oh no,
David, are
I'm
you
still
there?
here. I'm still
Okay.
here.
I lost that very last thing you just said. Can you say the last sentence?
Yeah, yeah. The last sentence was that gosh, what was it? Oh, well, the policy is that they have in their books it says that they have to look at the short sale because it will produce more money than a foreclosure. The foreclosure has attorney fees, they get the house back, they have to take care of the house and then try to resell it, and that's a bad situation. So the short sale always produces more money. Okay,
That makes sense.
that's why they do that. And by the way, just real quickly on stopping the foreclosure side, and I've got this like in my private Facebook group where we've revealed 3 ways to stop foreclosure, regardless of the attorney. I can stop an FHA foreclosure 4 days before the foreclosure date. Okay, by going to the FHA. I can stop a Fannie Mae foreclosure 2 days before, and if it's a VA homeowner VA loan, I can stop it the day before the foreclosure date. We don't need attorneys at all, okay? And stuff. There's government regulations, and that's what I teach and what I know and what I've done for 15 years is what are the government regulations that force the banks to play ball, okay? And stuff. Great questions.
Yeah, and this is great. All this is great, and I understand there's vastly more as far as the nuts and bolts go and the actionable stuff. You said earlier that you're a step by step kind of processes kind of person. That's what I would hope to get. I'm gonna come in. What time on it's next Tuesday? What time is the training?
It's 11 a.m. Central
Okay.
Time to 1 p.m. Central Time.
Okay, I'm going to make plans to be on that. And I want to encourage anyone watching this to be on that as well because David, I'm interested to really kind of get into some of the nuts and bolts and some of the processes because this is something that I feel like is kind of missing from I guess, and I don't want to, I guess real estate education in general. There's no one out there really doing this because, as I mentioned at the very beginning, most people are asking the question. People are still doing short sales. I thought that ended, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. But it's obvious that there's a need, and especially as you already alluded to, coming up, there is already like going to be a huge need for these short sales. So I'd be really interested in kind of diving a little bit more into this as well. So David, thank you.
That's fantastic.
David, thank you for taking the time to share this with us, and I'm going to make sure I share this on my social media, so and send an email out so people can get kind of get privy to this next training that you're doing next week. So thank you, David. Thank you for coming to do this for our folks. Really
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Well, I thank you for what you do with your group and bringing this kind of education to the masses. It's a very valuable service that you do, Brian. So I appreciate what you do too.
Guys, I'm going to have everything in the description of this video. So if you missed it, if you missed the QR code, everything's right here on the screen right now. But if you missed it for somehow, it's going to be in the description. Make sure you text this word Tripp, my last name, to his phone number, David's phone number. David, thank you again. Appreciate you. And guys, we're going to end this now, and we will see you on the next one next Monday, 11 o'clock Central Time. We've got incredible guest speakers coming out, giving us awesome training, actionable training that we can take with us in a real estate journey. Appreciate you guys.